Happy holidays and welcome to the Village of Addison Year in Review 2023. This is Addison Community Television's 36th Year in Review program. And joining me is the Mayor of the Village of Addison, Rich Veenstra. Hello, Mayor, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Dan. How you doing?
Very good, thank you. It's great to be here to recap the events and the programs and projects that have happened in Addison during 2023. In the area of, I guess, community engagement and connecting with our community, it was a great year right here on the Village Green with our engagement with Rock and Wheels. We had some statistics, Mayor, that indicated some 157,000 engagements on Facebook during the Rock and Wheels season alone. So people are definitely tuned in. We had the completion of the Veterans Circle Monument project in just 6 months construction, which was probably record-breaking in itself. The Addison Historical Museum reported more than 3,500 visitor engagements during the year, an increase of 3%, and we had more than 40 press release appearances, which I will tell you was a great thing to see in 2023. So tell us about engagement with the community. What does all that mean to you?
Well, you know, that's been a goal since I've been mayor, that, Addison has so many great things going on, whether it's in the economic sector, business development, new housing, just people events. There's so many really neat things that are unique to Addison that we don't talk about, we don't brag about, and quite frankly, a lot of our residents don't know about. And so one of the initiatives that we launched was to really become more visible and actually promote and boast about what Addison is and the Addison advantage.
So that's an ongoing thing. I mean, you need to do that continuously.
Exactly.
Right? You don't just do it and check it off. Okay, we're done now. We don't have to do that anymore.
And Addison historically has been a humble community and really doesn't brag about itself. And there's a lot to brag about and a lot to boast about. And that's something that attracts new residents to our community and continues the growth for our community.
I want to touch back on the Veterans Circle Monument. That was a huge project, a big undertaking. It occurs just a little east of our studio window here in the extension of the Village Green. The dedication taking place on Veterans Day on November 11th. What was the significance of doing that project? And now that we can look back on it with some sense of pride, how do you think it all turned out?
You know, I'm very proud of the entire activity. Addison has historically been very much a patriotic community. It goes back to the Civil War as far as
it does. You're right.
Representation. So the number of veterans that we have in our community is a huge number, and we've tokenly acknowledge them. The monument that we had at the corner by Walgreens, was a symbol of recognition, but it was in an awkward position that really didn't symbolize the gratitude that we have for our veterans. And when we had the opportunity to expand the Village Green and move the monument, we all agreed that this was something that was fitting as recognition and a tribute to our veterans.
Speaking of the Village Green, keeping in that area, as I mentioned just a moment ago, the 157,000 engagements on Facebook, the Rock and Wheels season. This was its 12th season. The weather was a little nicer, a little warmer, of course, and we saw record crowds, thousands every week coming out to participate in the 12 weeks of the festival here at the Village Green. So I know you were there for just about every one of them, I think. So
pretty close.
It was a great time, I think, by our community.
Yeah. And again, that was something that we wanted an identity for Addison to other communities go, wow, Addison Thursday nights, that's where people should be. And also for our internal customers, our residents. So certainly a tribute to you and your staff for pulling it together initially. And, there were some bumps in the road and sometimes where we'd look and see a couple hundred people out there going, is this worth it? But when you see 2,000, 3,000 or more in an event and enjoying themselves, celebrating community and interacting, it really is a rewarding for me as well as the elected officials. And it's a tribute to our community and our staff.
Great. Let's turn to the area of village finances, if we can. Mayor, talk a little bit about some of the economic issues, the checkbook issues that you folks on the village board deal with on a regular basis. We hear from our finance department that our general fund here at the village ended with $3.5 million in revenues over the previous year, than the previous year, rather. Continue to maintain good bond ratings. And even though the CPI had gone up, we're still doing well in terms of our tax levy amongst the community. And we're getting bond issues which are allowing us to complete major projects. So overall, when you take a look at some of the economic issues, how are we doing in that area? How did we end 2023?
We ended very well. We were positive bottom line. We have a reserve that meets our forecasted needs and really provides for any disasters or downturns in the economy. One of the things that I think was really remarkable, and it's a testament to our staff and the aggressiveness we have in multiple departments, we were able to receive over $14 million in grants last year. So for projects like road upgrades, repairs, different elements, and we'll probably talk about it a little bit later, sidewalk upgrades, and those significantly were funded in part by grants from the federal and state governments.
So all of that together allows us then to look at the upcoming fiscal year budget, which you folks in the department heads will be working on in the coming months now at the beginning of the new year. And you probably look back to see where are we stable, where do we have areas that we need to be concerned about. But overall, it's been relatively stable, so much that you can continue on those large projects. And the grant dollars especially is bringing money home from the state and federal level back to Addison.
And we're able to get a head start on some projects that we know are long-term, but because we are in a good position right now, we could start planning and moving ahead on those.
And let's talk about some of those big infrastructure projects from the Public Works Department. Currently ongoing is a multi-phase project to do a number of improvements in the area subdivision just north of Lake Street and east of Addison Road, including sewer separation, which needs to be done, replacement of lead service lines, which is obviously a health and safety issue, and roadway improvements up in the Oak, Chestnut, and North area. Public Works replaced a salt storage dome, and it is huge. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you been out there to see it? It's massive, right? It's no dome. That's a house. I'll tell you, it's a big one. Public Works installed recently an automated fill station, so contractors and developers can be billed and then get their water that they need for their project. And the water meter replacement project was finally done. We can't talk about it anymore, apparently. So those are critical infrastructure type things that cost big dollars. That sewer separation and lead line service project was funded by federal dollars that came to Addison.
We had some very generous grants that were actually driven by our representatives. Senate President Harmon was very instrumental in one of them. Congressman Krishnamurthy was very instrumental. We all worked together to achieve what's needed for our community. And people forget that Addison is going to be 140 years old next year. So a lot of the infrastructure isn't quite 140 years old, but it's aging, and a lot of it needs to be upgraded.
Right, it's amazing. Also in the Public Works menu from this year, we had 2 successful recycling day events, both at Addison Trail High School, one in March and another in October. The replacement of the LED street lighting, which is a money saver and good for our sustainability program. They're in year 3 of that 4-year program. And Public Works tells us that they replaced 1,700 squares of sidewalks, which cost $300,000. 1,700. So remember that when you're taking a walk through Addison, that those things have to be replaced because they fall apart and then they can become a problem if you don't get them replaced.
And when you consider we've got over 100 miles of roadway, so times 2,
That's right, the sidewalk on each side.
A lot of sidewalk, yeah.
Yeah, right. So all those things together, and we talked about the LED street lighting, we talked about the recycling events. Addison has had the Earth flag and our clean water flag now for over a year. Those are all things that we can look at and say, we know these cost money, we know that these projects cost dollars, and here's why, because we want to have a good environment, safe drinking water, safe sidewalks to walk on. All of those things have purpose behind it, which is the overall goal of your mission, which is to keep a happy and healthy, safe community.
Yeah, and sustainability is the key. Being able to make sure that we're planning for the future as technologies change, as dangers and environmental issues arise. We have to be prepared and think forward and make sure that we're addressing those issues.
I thought we might take a moment to just touch on one other issue before we move on and get into our next area, talking about community development, and that is the Village's portion of the property tax bill. Has that remained pretty consistent over the last several years? Because that's important when we talk about a lot of those economic issues that we mentioned a moment ago.
Yeah, really it has stayed between 8% and 10% over the last several years. And that's a major misconception that a lot of our residents have, is that when they look at their property tax bill, they go, the village. But there's more than 6 other taxing bodies that make up that property tax bill. And for Addison, the revenue that's generated from the property tax is about 20%, 24% of our total revenue. So it's a relatively smaller portion of the revenue that we generate for the village. But a significant amount of the property tax bill goes to other taxing bodies that we don't control or have any input into.
And it's also important to remind our viewers that those taxing bodies have governing boards,
exactly,
which sit and consider their own budgets and their property tax levies on an annual basis. And it's important to apprise yourself and be knowledgeable about, you could sit there with your property tax bill and go down the line and say, I wonder what's going on here. And if you don't avail yourself of finding out information and talking to your elected representatives about these things, then you're missing out on a great opportunity to learn where your property tax dollars are being spent in this community and even beyond the boundaries of Addison.
Exactly.
So it's important to do that. Let's talk about some completed projects in community development. This is great because we can look back and say that these are done. So here we go. The A&W restaurant at 1012 North Rolling Road opened in July. The Amazon building at 2101 West Lake Street. They are now seeking to sublease that building. We've touched on that in the past. The Enclave at Mill Creek, phases number 1 and 2 at Army Trail and Mill Roads. All the lots have been sold. We'll talk about the pricing in just a moment, and the completion of the entire phase scheduled for spring. The Highlands at Lombard Road and Holtz Avenue, the former Driscoll property. All 60 lots have been sold, and they're looking to finish up in the spring. Quick Trip at Army Trail Road and Swift Roads at the northeast corner there is open now. They are operating. Their vehicle and truck refueling station and convenience store is open and operating and generating sales tax revenue and motor fuel tax revenue. And Woodland Estates at Rawling Road and Woodland Avenue project should be completed by the end of 2023. So let's go back a little bit. We now have A&W restaurant. It's all good. Everybody's happy. I have to call my friend out in Carroll Stream and tell her that it's open. She probably already knows. Touch for a moment on Amazon, if you could. The building is built and it's going to be subleased now to a different tenant.
We were very, very excited when Amazon had designated Addison as one of their distribution centers. They cleaned up a very major eyesore.
Bad, really bad.
And it was almost a dumping area.
Yeah.
And so the improvements visually and structurally were significant. But that was a downturn also for the economy, where Amazon started rethinking the way they were distributing and the expansion of their warehouses. So they put the project on hold, and now they're looking to sublet the the warehouse. And warehouses are in huge demand right now, so we expect to see usage in that building shortly.
Right, because they're getting a lot of money per square foot for warehouse development.
Yeah.
We've learned that. That is a result of people who are doing shopping online, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff has to be stored somewhere. The Enclave at Mill Creek, phases 1 and 2, you folks put the approval stamp on that some years ago, and they've just been moving crazy. New housing offerings, do you know what they're selling at, what the
They're
rate
about
is?
520,000. And we, quite frankly, are amazed with the new building projects that we'll talk about, way over expectation. And people are paying a lot of money for the ability to live in our community, and we're real happy to hear that.
Right. Those are unique. They're designed as sort of a downsizer format or model.
Maintenance-free, and which is very desirable.
Right.
And
okay. Highlands, we've talked about that before. That was completed recently. The 60 lots in the former Driscoll Catholic High School area sold, and real stable subdivision. How does that fit in with the overall? That's a huge residential area.
It fits well in the area. We were anticipating $400,000 range for those units when they were first built. Some of them went for as high as $850,000. So, the marketability of Addison and the ability to put these kind of homes in, I think reinforces what we've been doing over the years in terms of upgrading and promoting Addison.
Mm-hmm. The Woodland Estates at Rawling Road and Woodland Avenue, those townhomes, completion now, and again, offering additional housing. And giving people options as to the type of home style that they'd like to have.
Yeah. And, we talked about it early on, that we didn't offer a wide variety of housing. And over the years, we've provided housing for seniors, for empty nesters, for newlyweds coming into a community, for young families. So we really have the full spectrum of housing options for our community.
Very good. Well, let's talk about some projects that are ongoing right now that are still in the construction phase. The project at 50 South Fairbanks Street, that's the Misner Group, putting in a 77,000+ square foot warehouse. And that's been on the site of what was once the property owned by the Ray Graham Association. The Panattoni Building at the 194 North Addison Road, and we'll touch on that as to where they're at with getting a tenant, and the infamous 1000 North Rawling Road, which probably doesn't mean anything to you until we say Fuddruckers. Now all of a sudden you're going to go, aha, I know what you're talking about, and looking at getting that completed. So Misner Group at Fairbanks Street, another warehouse development in the industrial area.
Right. Borders the residential areas, so there was some pushback about that construction and being significantly different than what was there previously. We were very concerned about the development because the county was looking at purchasing that area to put in a homeless shelter. And that clearly was not consistent with our plans and development goals. Plus, that area is industrial. So we were happy to see this project go forward, and I know there were some concerns that neighboring residents had about the visibility of the building, and we worked with the developer, and they've put fencing, and we'll continue to improve the sight lines so that it's not obtrusive to the residents, and everybody seems to be happy with the outcome.
The Panattoni Building at Addison Road and Moreland Avenue. Again, I think it's important that we talk for a moment about the desirability and saleability of properties. And that was a parcel of about, I think, 4 different properties came together, am I correct? Into what we have there today. Any word on whether or not a tenant has been finalized?
Yes,
at that building?
It has been. My understanding is that there'll be a move-in in March, although they're still working with their existing staff, so they don't want to be too public about it.
Okay.
And but there will be some notices in the coming months that the building will be fully occupied by one tenant.
And again, the marketability of that property lent itself to the fact that they were going to get its highest dollar for the fact that they could put a warehouse there.
Yeah.
Is that right? That's really what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we were concerned about, a lot of people were very upset when that building went up, and how could you put that elephant out there? And but people forgot how bad the existing residential building looked and how in disrepair it was. And our goal was to provide a space for the Veterans Memorial, but also to have the church much more visible as kind of a symbol of who we are as a community. And once all of the construction of the Veterans Memorial was completed, I think everybody started looking at it and going, wow, this is kind of nice. And the warehouse is not quite as visible or noticeable as it had been before.
Right. Let's touch on some roadway projects, if we could, Mayor. And this year, obviously, we had a lot of them, both the annual, what we call MFT, motor fuel tax, street resurfacing, and some other projects. Mm-hmm. I'll just go down our list very quickly. We had work that took place in the Foxdale and Eastwood areas. That was the main MFT project, over $2 million. There was grant money available to do some street work and some repairs in the Kings Point area and do repatching there, and in some of the adjacent subdivisions there. There was a grant received of more than $1 million for water main replacement and resurfacing in the Green Meadow area, and looking after some of our infrastructure, with a plan for 2024 work as well. The Safe Route to Schools grant, there was a highly publicized public hearing about that, $250,000 in the Armitage Avenue area near Ardmore School. You mentioned Congressman Krishnamurthy bringing $600,000 for improvements to College Boulevard. So it sounds like that, not just the MFT program, which you talk about every year, but a lot of other roadway projects got done this year, which just reinforces the fact if you don't repair these as soon as you can when the grant money is available, the grant money is going to go by, somebody else will get it,
exactly,
and you're going to still have a dilapidated street.
Yeah.
So that didn't happen this year. We were able to get the work done.
Mm-hmm. And again, we look at over 100 miles of road in town. We look at a replacement of about a 20-year rotation. We've identified streets. We've kind of categorized and prioritized what needs to be repaired and when. But things don't always go according to a 20-year cycle. No. So being able to do things when they're needed, and the sidewalk program was a good example. We had residents that identified issues that we worked with them to get a grant that allowed us to do more work than we normally would be able to in this fiscal year.
The last project that we'll touch on in terms of things underway right now would be the Towns at Mill Creek. Again, back at the Army Trail and Mill Road area. It's a companion project to the Enclave single-family homes that were built, and this will be a hybrid of townhomes and condominiums, and their construction is underway right now. You can't miss it if you drive by the Army Trail and Mill Road area. This again offers another level of housing that is available now at this Towns at Mill Creek area, and a good price range, I would imagine. It's going to give.
They're looking at about $400,000 in that area. So. And again, that's speculation. Who knows what the actual price is going to be? But again, it gives us another opportunity and another option for people to stay in Addison.
Of course, we have great plans. We always have plans for future projects. Some of these we have touched on in years past, so we're really giving more or less an update onto the status, and some are newer. Let's first talk about the Addison Horizon, which will be located at 150 West Green Meadow Drive. It is another offering for assisted living in the community, right? Any update in the status as to that project?
Yeah, they're moving forward. We're expecting them to break ground in spring with a opening in early 2025. Mm-hmm. So it'll be about a year-long building project.
And your second assisted living center in the community.
And so we're looking forward to that. It will improve the area in terms of redevelopment and upgrading, and and it's a needed service for our community.
Right. Okay. Now, along with that, another project which has been talked about in years past is called Alexandra Point. The address is 1100 West Lake Street. Currently, it is the former Oxford Bank and its predecessor bank sitting there on 6.5 acres. But it sounds like that's just kind of in a stall at this point, right?
Yeah. We've had several interactions with developers that weren't too vested in improving Addison, and this was one of those situations where we had a lot of promises, a lot of plans, a lot of expectations. Their financing wasn't there. They couldn't move along. They told us that they were going to. They told us it was for sale. We got stories back and forth. Ultimately, we told them that the building was in terrible disrepair and they needed to do something about it. We suggested that they raise the entire building, and we're expecting that probably will be happening in the next several weeks to maybe the next month or so.
Okay. Is there ever a time where where these things just kind of go into oblivion? You really don't hear much more. I mean, do we have deadlines for things like that?
We basically gave them a deadline and told them that if they didn't comply, there would be serious fines levied against them and court if necessary.
Right. Okay. Then moving along, apparently jewelers got some money to spend in our town. We'll talk about one now and one in a little while. And Kona Jewelers at 1570 West Lake Street is looking to relocate their operations, right, to 1700 West Lake Street. Doesn't sound like a big move, but it is, because they're actually going to be renovating a underused building right now.
The old Mario's Deli.
Mario's Deli.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And they're very excited about it. We've seen the plans and preliminary approval. I think everybody will be very impressed with what they see in terms of the final product. And they've been a member of the business community for a lot of years and very loyal to the community. And we're looking forward to a lot more years and a bigger and more successful operation.
Is that a good thing when a business wants to move from they're kind of an anchor part of that section there north of Lake Street, move down, and then now the push will be on to get somebody to fill that spot, I would assume, and they probably will, given the high volume of commerce that takes place in that area.
Yeah, the visibility is good for its current location, but as they grow and develop, their space needs are certainly important for them, but I see it more as an opportunity to bring in new development into our community.
Good. Our viewers may not recall, we haven't talked about this in a while, but there was a plan for a pretty extensive annexation, zoning in and annexation for a number of properties that are located near Lake Street and Rawling Road, Illinois Route 53. And it starts with the BP project or business there and kind of stretches out beyond that because they needed to I guess there was some contaminated soil at one point, and there was a huge annexation that was being proposed. Has that moved anywhere in the last year or so?
Not really. We hear stories back and forth. There'd been some remediation, so the urgency wasn't there.
Oh, okay.
There's been some suggestions that developers wanted to acquire some of the property. Some of the uses that they were talking about we would never approve. So it's back and forth. We hear that maybe this coming year there's a potential, but I'm taking it with a grain of salt as far as once I see it, I'll believe it.
Right. I always say, you believe it when that ribbon cutting happens,
exactly.
Then you're good for it. Let's talk about Calvary United Pentecostal Church, one of the houses of worship in Addison. They are currently in the process of, they were annexed, and now they're going to be building on and some additional square footage, a lot of square footage, because they have a lot of land there, and they want to do a big project, and it looks like groundbreaking will be coming up pretty soon. What's the plan out at Calvary?
They are going to add 14,000 square feet to their current building. Calvary is kind of a regional church. Most of their members are from out of Addison, and they play very highly to a younger group of people, and so music and a lot of things that attract younger people are part of their rituals and services. So they certainly have a need for expansion, and we're going to be working with them to make that happen.
Excellent. Not too far away is the Little Prince Daycare at Army Trail and Mill Roads, and they are looking to do some expansion because apparently we have a lot of little princes and princesses and all sorts who need daycare there. I guess this is coming up on your agenda early part of 2024.
Right, and again, you see the need for after-school programs and daycare as people are going back to work, and so they've been in that area for a while now, and it's good to see again businesses expanding and staying in town rather than moving out, and so that's a good sign for our business sector.
All right. Well, for those of you who live along Lombard Road or travel along Lombard Road, I think we've said once before, we're putting the word out and we're going to do it again. There is a major construction project and improvements plan for both legs of Lombard Road from Army Trail Road, both north and south. So first up is going to be what's called the Lombard Road South project. It's resurfacing and partial reconstruction all the way to Fullerton Avenue. Wow, so that's a big project. And there's a lot of truck traffic and everything in there, so it probably needs a lot of work and some $1.3 million. And I mean, roadway projects are very important in the community.
They are. And this one may be delayed a little bit. There's been some discussions as far as how it's being handled and whether or not all the right-of-ways have been acquired.
Oh, okay.
So stay tuned, yeah.
And then the north leg of the project would go from Army Trail Road then all the way up to Lake Street. And now we're hitting more of a residential area, Addison Trail High School, Stone School, and so on. And a federal grant was awarded on that, but construction wouldn't begin for at least another year.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, so stay tuned for news on the Lombard Road projects. And finally, we talked about jewelers, and now, of course, Rasny Jewelers. We're not playing favorites here, of course, at 1501 West Lake Street, and they are looking to do some additions to that store. They've been there for many years as well, and it looks like that is going to be going forward in 2024.
Yeah, they're doing a major upgrade to their building, and they actually had to lease land from Marcus Cinema for additional parking, but it's going to be a remarkable upgrade for them. Their Addison business is their primary business. They've got 3 other sites, and Addison is one of their primary areas, and they do a tremendous amount of business, and that's very good for Addison.
Because it's sales tax. That's what it all comes down to here is sales tax, and that's why we have a variety of businesses that are still operating. People still like to go into a store for some things. I know that online retailing is convenient and is something that we've learned, especially post-pandemic, is going to stay, obviously. But people still like to go in and check things out, especially when they're lay out that kind of money. Let's turn our attention to the Addison Police Department. They held their very popular Shop with a Hero event on December 2nd, their 18th annual, and dozens of families and kids were helped by that. And that's a huge, kind of going back to that idea of community approach to something. You want to talk about helping people, that's a great way to do it. And it was a wonderful day.
It was, and for me, it's kind of the unofficial start to the holiday season because it really is about giving and sharing. And we see the Knights of Columbus, the Shriners, different service organizations coming together, multiple businesses in our community. Overton Gear has been very, very generous. SWD has been involved in providing support financially. Walmart has been tremendous in being the host for the event and basically donating a lot of funds to make it happen, and to see the little kids not shopping for themselves but for their siblings or for their parents or people that are important to them, and not asking for anything on their own, but most of the volunteers are police as well as fire. As they help the kids shop, they donate on their own, and so it's a great time. Everybody walks away feeling great about it, and it really captures the spirit of the holiday.
And of course, in the area of the police department, we said goodbye to another one of our leadership team, and that was Director of Police Bill Hayden, who has gone off now. He's in Florida. He's probably not even around to hear this great tribute we're about to do for him right here on our Year in Review program. But Director Hayden is off to retirement right now. How many years?
He is. It was over 40.
Wow.
And he came to Addison as a dispatcher. He was.
Isn't that amazing?
And he worked his way up through the ranks of the police department and virtually every department in every area of the police. And talk about being dedicated to a community. He lived here. He raised his family here and loved Addison, and did just a tremendous job in making the Addison Police Department respected as one of the best, if not the best, in DuPage County. And
I will tell you, I would see Bill working with his staff, the police personnel, the law enforcement agencies of other communities in some really very, very challenging times. And you can't even, you don't realize until you're in that field how intense it is. Those who are in law enforcement or any type of public safety area would know what we're talking about. And he just would get up there and very cool, level-headed. Sometimes not a lot could be said about things when we would try to get information out because there was a public demand or press and so on. There was not a lot that could be said from time to time. So that was very challenging. But in the end, he really kept it all together and was enthusiastic. I was working with him on a matter that happened, probably in October, maybe it was, must have been October. Just days away from his own retirement. He was still there working, working the street, working, from the command post, working with his people. And that was 45 years of a career in law enforcement in this one community.
His comment was he's smart enough to hire people smarter than him.
Yes.
And when you look at the number of former deputy chiefs from Addison that are now chief of police in other communities, it's amazing. And it speaks to the training and the selection of staff that we do have. And our village manager was deputy chief. It's very refreshing and reassuring for me as mayor to know that we've got such a strong team there.
Right. Well, we've covered a number of topics on our Year in Review program for 2023 today. I am sure that there's probably questions that you have, not just here locally with the Village of Addison, but with some of the other agencies as well. And of course, January means it's time for you to become the person to ask questions, listen, be an active listener and a critical thinker, and a willing person to tune in and watch the 17th annual Shape of Addison Town Hall meeting presented by Itasca Bank and Trust Company. This year's program will be on Thursday, January 25th. Live from the Addison Village Hall boardroom, where you can attend the meeting in person, or you can watch live here on Addison Community Television. You can watch the program streamed live on addisonadvantage.org and the YouTube channel Village Addison. So that's the 17th annual Shape of Addison Town Hall meeting, Thursday, January 25th. Right here on Addison Community Television and on our streaming platforms as well. Well, Mayor, we've come to the end of yet another one of our Year in Review programs. They sure do move fast. The years do. The longer you and I are in this business, I think they do. And it was great to be able to look back at a very successful and productive year. I'd like to give you this opportunity, if you would, to extend greetings of the season to our residents and viewers.
Well, on behalf of myself and the village board, I just want to wish all of our residents the happiest and prosperous New Year, and the best wishes for a happy, healthy Christmas holiday season. It's been a great year for us, and we look forward to even greater 2024. And happy holidays to everyone.
Mayor, thank you very much for spending the time that you have today to look back on the many projects and programs here in the Village of Addison during 2023, and a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and your family. Thank you. And now for all of us here at Addison Community Television, Don Weiss wishing you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. See you again in 2024.